Some drummers keep time. John Bonham bent it. In most bands, the drummer provides rhythm. In Led Zeppelin, he provided life itself. Bonham didn't just play the drums, he summoned them. From the rolling thunder of When the Levee Breaks to the meditative pulse of Kashmir, his rhythms didn't just drive the songs, they created their landscape. Every crash sounded like weather breaking, every pause like the calm before a storm. For a decade, Zeppelin was unstoppable. But even within their chaos, Bonham stood apart, discipline wrapped in fury. His timing made madness sound inevitable, and his control made the impossible seem effortless. He wasn't the fastest, nor the flashiest, but he was the gravity that made everything else soar. This isn't just about the greatest drummer of all time, it's about why he was. Here's the story of John Bonham, and how one man's rhythm changed music forever. The pulse before the storm, before Zeppelin even existed. Whispers of John Bonham echoed through Birmingham. Local drummers talked about him like a myth, a man who could make a tiny pub shake like a thunderstorm. His power wasn't just volume, it was control. Every hit carried purpose. Every silence had meaning. Born into a working-class family, Bonham's connection to rhythm came naturally. Pots, pans, and anything that could rattle became his first drum kit. He never learned to read music, but his timing was so sharp it could silence a room. Through early bands like the Senators and later the Band of Joy, Bonham shaped a sound that was relentless, yet deeply human, swing and steel combined. On stage, he was pure electricity. His arms swung like hammers, yet every strike landed with surgical accuracy. Using a single bass pedal, he developed a double kick effect that drummers today still struggle to match. It wasn't about showing off. It was about turning raw energy into rhythm. Fellow musicians would later say, "You didn't just hear Bonham's drumming. You felt it in your ribs." Bonham didn't keep the beat. He was the beat. He brought poetry to precision and dignity to power. Before Zeppelin, the storm was already brewing. Bonham was simply waiting for lightning to strike. The making of a monster, when Jimmy Page built Led Zeppelin, he wasn't looking for a drummer. He was searching for an engine. And he found it in John Bonham. In 1968, the band walked into Olympic Studios, and from the first session, the chemistry was explosive. Their debut track, Good Times. Bad Times wasn't just an introduction, it was a declaration. Bonham's technique was a paradox, fierce yet flawless. His footwork on the bass drum rewrote the rulebook of rock. Page later said, Bonham's drumming became the gravitational center of every take. Engineer Glyn Johns recalled, when he hit the drums, the room itself seemed to move. He played the kit like a melodic instrument. His snare and toms answered Page's guitar riffs like they were part of the same conversation. Off stage, Bonham was quieter, analytical. He studied Motown legends and jazz masters like Max Roach and Gene Krupa, borrowing feel rather than flash. He was deadly, said John Paul Jones, instinct sharpened by taste. By the time Zeppelin left Olympic Studios, they didn't just have a drummer, they had thunder with finesse, the perfect balance of chaos and control. Bonham's drumming wasn't brute force. It was physics disguised as groove. He could swing harder than most jazz players, yet hit harder than anyone in rock. Listen to When the Levee Breaks, that monumental opening beat, recorded in the stairwell of Headley Grange, is more than a rhythm. It's architecture. Producer Andy Johns once said, "We didn't record Bonham, we recorded the air he moved." Kashmir pulsed with trance-like discipline. Every cymbal hit was deliberate, almost spiritual. You could feel the size of his sound before you even heard it, Robert Plant said. Bonham's genius was his ability to blur genres, taking the groove of James Brown, the space of jazz and the power of hard rock, turning it into something eternal. Even on soft tracks like the Rain Song, his subtle touch carried enormous weight. He never chased speed, he chased feel. Every drag behind the beat, every pause, was intentional, a heartbeat stretched across time. Bonham didn't just hit hard, he hit true. The studio alchemist in the studio, Bonham was more than a musician. He was an architect. He treated air, walls, and space as part of his drum kit. Kashmir wasn't built on riffs. It was built on restraint. Andy Johns said that when Bonham played, the microphones bowed to him. Headley Grange became his domain. Stairwells turned into echo chambers. Footsteps into thunder. He didn't chase perfection through editing or overdubs. "You couldn't fix Bonham's takes," said Jimmy Page. "They were perfect the first time." Every hit carried fingerprints, small imperfections that made it human. On No Quarter, his silence became atmosphere. On Achilles' Last Stand, his fills rose and crashed like waves. Bonham didn't just record rhythm. He recorded gravity, the human avalanche live. Bonham was unstoppable. His solos weren't performances, they were battles. Moby Dick became his ritual. It started with brushes, a whisper of rhythm, before erupting into a storm that felt like it could split the earth. "He didn't play at you," said John Paul Jones. "He played through you." Every Zeppelin show orbited around him. Page's guitar burned. Plant's voice soared. But Bonham grounded it all, keeping chaos in check. Robert Plant once said, "He made chaos sound controlled." Offstage, Bonham was a perfectionist. He studied tapes of his own performances, analyzing every breath, every movement. His timing wasn't mechanical. It was alive. He played like a mountain collapsing in rhythm, impossible force landing in perfect time. When Bonham locked into a groove, gravity itself seemed to bend, the breaking point. But the same fire that fueled his greatness also consumed him fame. Exhaustion and alcohol began to take their toll. Friends said Bonham lived fast because stillness frightened him. The night before he died in 1980, he was rehearsing for another tour, still chasing perfection. His death didn't just end a life. It ended an era. Zeppelin knew immediately. Without Bonham, there was no Zeppelin. Jimmy Page later said he only had two speeds, flat out and gone. He didn't crave chaos. He just didn't know how to stop moving. That final night, he played for hours, still searching for a groove he could never perfect. And then the rhythm stopped. Zeppelin's statement afterward was simple. Absolute. There can be no band without John Bonham, the pulse that never fades. Decades later, his echo still shakes the world. From Dave Grohl to Chad Smith, every modern rock drummer measures themselves against Bonham's ghost. When the levee breaks has been sampled by hip-hop, studied by jazz, and worshipped by metal. His sound refuses to age. It evolves. "You didn't just hear him louder," Grohl said. "You heard him deeper." Producers chase his tone. Drummers chase his feel. But no one captures his gravity. Robert Plant summed it up best. When John hit the drums, the world shook, but it always landed right. That's Bonham's paradox. Raw power, absolute control, and emotion you could measure in heartbeats. He didn't leave behind perfection. He left behind pulse. His rhythm lives on, in arenas, in headphones, in the hearts of anyone who's ever felt the urge to move to something real. John Bonham didn't just keep time. He defined it. And though the man is gone, his rhythm still breathes in every song that dares to thunder, because rhythm, like Bonham, never dies. It just changes hands.
Please don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon.